What if self-discipline wasn't a grim boot camp but a quiet superpower you switch on every morning? In this video, we unpack Kit McGee's The Power of Self-Discipline and turn abstract willpower into repeatable systems. Tiny rituals that beat procrastination, decision rules that kill fatigue, and habit scaffolds that make big wins inevitable. You'll learn how to design your environment, steal momentum from tiny wins, and set boundaries that protect your future self, all without moralizing or pretending you're perfect. Stay until the end. One simple 2-minute ritual here will rewire how you start your day and make discipline feel effortless, not oppressive. Chapter 1. The Hidden Force. Behind every success, discipline is not glamorous, it's not loud, and it doesn't sparkle like motivation. It's quiet, steady, and unshakable. The world often praises talent, luck, or opportunity, but the real secret that builds empires and turns dreams into reality is the invisible engine called self-discipline. Imagine waking up every day with a clear purpose, even when you don't feel like it. That's discipline, doing what must be done long after the excitement fades. Kit McGee opens the book by reminding us that successful people aren't superhuman. They just master the art of showing up, repeatedly, no matter how they feel. Think about the athlete who trains before dawn, the writer who writes through rejection, or the entrepreneur who keeps moving forward after countless failures. They all share one trait: relentless self-control. McGee emphasizes that discipline is not punishment, it's liberation. When you learn to control your impulses, you gain freedom. The freedom to create the life you want instead of reacting to what life gives you. The first step to building this power is awareness. Notice your daily habits. Notice the excuses you tell yourself. Every time you say, "I'll do it later," you weaken your inner muscle of control. Every time you act despite discomfort, you strengthen it. Discipline grows with use, like any muscle. The key is consistency over perfection. You don't need to be flawless, you need to be committed. McGee says, discipline is doing what's necessary even when it's not convenient. Those who live by that rule separate themselves from the crowd. In this chapter, you're not asked to change your entire life overnight. You're asked to start small, to make one promise to yourself today and keep it. And maybe it's waking up 15 minutes earlier or finishing that task you've been avoiding. That single act done daily compounds into unshakable strength. The magic of discipline is that it starts invisible but becomes unstoppable. The moment you honor your word to yourself, you begin to trust your own power. And when you trust yourself, nothing can stop you. That's the beginning of mastery. Chapter 2. The Myth of Motivation. Motivation is overrated. It's a spark, not the fire. It fades faster than you think. McGee breaks this illusion early. People often wait to feel ready before taking action, but if you wait for motivation, you'll wait forever. True performers don't rely on mood, they rely on structure. Discipline fills the gap when motivation dies. Picture this. One person starts running only when inspired. Another runs, no matter the weather, the fatigue, or the mood. Guess who wins after a year? The disciplined one. McGee compares motivation to caffeine. It gives you a temporary boost, but discipline is like endurance. It carries you through the long marathon of life. The trick is to stop negotiating with yourself. Every time you think, "I don't feel like it," you need to answer, "That's irrelevant." Feelings are fleeting. Commitment is permanent. McGee challenges readers to build systems that make action automatic. For example, set your clothes out the night before, schedule your priorities, and remove distractions. Don't rely on willpower alone. Design your environment so it's easier to stay consistent. The more decisions you automate, the less you drain your energy. Motivation may start the race, but discipline finishes it. Chapter 3. The war within discipline is not about fighting the world. It's about mastering yourself. McGee calls this the inner battlefield. Every day there's a tug of war between comfort and growth. Comfort whispers, rest, scroll, escape. Growth whispers, work, focus, push. Which voice you obey decides your future. Self-discipline means choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure. The brain craves instant gratification. It wants dopamine now, but wisdom knows that satisfaction earned is deeper than pleasure consumed. McGee tells the story of a student who chose to study an hour daily instead of binging on entertainment. A year later, he was unrecognizable, more confident, sharper, and closer to his goals. That transformation wasn't luck. It was the daily choice to win the inner war. McGee insists that this battle never ends, but it becomes easier the more victories you collect. Every time you resist the urge to quit, you expand your inner strength. That's how warriors of life are made, not by grand victories, but by silent consistency. Chapter 4. Building the discipline habit. Habits build destiny. McGee explains that discipline isn't something you find, it's something you train. The key is routine. If you build small, daily habits that reinforce control, discipline becomes effortless. You don't think about brushing your teeth, right? That's the goal. Make discipline automatic. Start small, 5 minutes of focus, one small promise kept daily. Tiny wins create momentum, and momentum crushes resistance. McGee advises tracking your habits. Seeing your progress builds pride. The goal is identity. Stop saying, "I'm trying to be disciplined," and start saying, "I am disciplined." The difference is massive. When it becomes who you are, not what you do, it lasts forever. Chapter 5. The pain principle. Growth hurts, but pain isn't your enemy. It's your proof of progress. McGee says discomfort is the toll you pay for greatness. The mind often runs from pain, but the disciplined mind welcomes it. Why? Because pain signals that you're moving beyond limits. Think of every workout, every late-night study session, every hard decision. They all hurt before they heal. The undisciplined avoid pain and stay stagnant. The disciplined embrace it and evolve. McGee encourages readers to reframe pain as data, not danger. It tells you that you're alive, pushing, improving. When you stop avoiding discomfort, you become unstoppable. Pain becomes your compass. If it's hard, it's probably right. The ultimate truth of discipline? You either suffer the pain of growth now or the pain of regret later. The choice is always yours. Chapter 6. Systems over willpower make discipline. Inevitable, willpower is a finite resource. Systems last. Kit McGee argues that the smartest path to self-discipline is to stop treating it as a daily battle of moral strength and start building systems that make the right action the default. Consider your morning. Every decision you postpone until the moment of action costs energy. What to wear, what to make for breakfast, where your phone lives. Each micro-decision chips away at a reservoir of will. Systems solve that by pre-deciding. Lay out your clothes, pre-cook breakfasts, schedule workouts like meetings. Make resistance the harder option. If the route to distraction requires extra steps and the route to progress is frictionless, you win with less moral drama. McGee details the anatomy of a good system: clarity, minimal friction, and measurable signals. Clarity means your system answers the question, what exactly do I do next? If your habit is work out more, that's vague. If it's do a 20-minute bodyweight routine at 6:30 a.m. in the guest room, it's actionable. Minimal friction is about design: place dumbbells by the bed, have an app playlist ready, remove the TV remote from the bedroom. Measurable signals give you feedback: a tick on a habit tracker, a logged 20 minutes, a completed checklist. Without feedback, the system is a ritual without reinforcement. McGee emphasizes environment engineering as the most underrated system. If you want to eat better, remove snacks from eye level. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow. Systems are not about perfection. They're about reducing reliance on fleeting motivation. He also warns about rigid systems that collapse under life's variability. Build flexible core rules. When traveling, do a 12-minute hotel routine. When sick, do a 5-minute gentle movement. The system survives by being forgiving and predictable. Finally, automate social systems, public commitments, scheduled accountability calls, or signing up for a recurring class make the social cost of quitting higher. Systems buy you consistency. Chapter 7. Micro Habits, Macro Results. The compound power of tiny wins. Big change rarely arrives with a thunderclap. It arrives through accumulation, tiny actions repeated long enough to bend identity. McGee makes the case for micro habits, deliberately small, easy-to-complete actions that you can perform daily with near-zero resistance. The genius is in scale. A 1-minute daily practice compounded over a year yields enormous behavioral capital. Choose habits that are trivial to start but scalable over time. If you promise yourself 2 push-ups, you'll often do 10. If you promise 1 paragraph, you'll often keep writing. The initial resistance is the gating factor. The micro-habit bypasses it. Kit gives a 3-step design for micro-habits: anchor, cue, and celebration. Anchor attaches the micro-habit to an existing routine. After I brush my teeth, I write 1 sentence. Cue is the trigger, the sound, time, or object that reminds you. Celebration is immediate positive feedback: a small verbal acknowledgement, a check mark, a fist pump. Chapter 8. The Art of Scheduling. Time as a non-renewable asset. Time is the strictest constraint you face. Once it passes, you can't buy it back. McGee reframes discipline as ruthless scheduling. If you do not plan your priorities into your calendar, someone else will. Start by treating your calendar as sacred real estate. Block deep work first, then schedule everything else around it. Deep work blocks are not negotiable. They are the oxygen of meaningful progress. McGee recommends protecting at least 2 substantial focus windows per week to start. 90 minutes of undisturbed work where your highest value effort happens. Surround these blocks with rituals, preparation cues, a short breathing set, and a visible "do not disturb" signal. The art is also in chunking. Break large projects into discrete calendar-sized pieces: a 90-minute research block, a 45-minute outline, a 30-minute edit. When a project is parceled into calendar units, it resists optimism bias and becomes executable. Another scheduling trick is theme days. Give each day a dominant focus: Monday for planning, Tuesday for deep product work, Friday for synthesis and admin. Theme days reduce context switching and preserve depth. McGee also insists on scheduling leisure and recovery. If rest isn't booked, you'll fritter both energy and time. A disciplined schedule includes naps, walks, and time for relationships. Chapter 9. Accountability Architects. How to build external structures that protect you. Personal discipline is potent, but when the stakes grow, external accountability becomes the scaffolding that prevents collapse. Kit McGee calls these accountability architects systems and people you design to hold your commitments. Accountability works because humans are social animals. We value reputation and reciprocal obligation. Start with one accountability partner, someone who knows your goal, asks for weekly updates, and operates in curiosity, not condemnation. Public commitment multiplies effect. Declare a project to a group, set a measurable deliverable, and schedule a public check-in. The social cost of missing something will increase adherence. Another approach is pre-commitment devices, deposit-based systems where failing to meet targets transfers money to a cause you dislike, or automatic scheduling of classes and recurring sessions that force participation. McGee emphasizes the architecture should be compassionate yet firm, zero shame, high clarity. Accountability rituals must include short reports of progress, explicit next steps, and a rapid repair plan when slippage occurs. The repair plan is critical. It prevents failure spirals by making recovery a simple, predefined action rather than a moral meltdown. Organizations can scale accountability. Small team sprints, weekly stand-ups, and visible dashboards align dozens toward shared discipline. Use technology wisely. Habit trackers, calendar reminders, and simple tracking sheets reduce cognitive load and make social proof visible. Chapter 10. Energy Architecture. Align your tasks with biological rhythms. Discipline fails when you ignore the body. McGee emphasizes that peak performance is a function of energy, not merely effort. The smart, disciplined person designs around circadian rhythms, schedule cognitively demanding tasks during peaks and lower stakes, work during troughs. Identify your chronotype, morning, intermediate, or evening, and arrange your calendar accordingly. If you're a morning high performer, protect early hours for deep work. If you're sharper at night, reserve creative writing for later. Energy architecture also includes nutrition, movement, and sleep hygiene, non-negotiables for sustained discipline. Small nutritional moves, protein-rich breakfasts, steady hydration, and reduced late-night sugar stabilize cognitive energy. Short movement breaks every 60 to 90 minutes refresh attention. A 5-minute walk, a set of squats, or light stretching resets the nervous system. Sleep is the cornerstone. McGee treats consistent sleep as a competitive advantage. Prioritize it like a business metric. Another angle is emotional energy. Guard against relationships that drain you during focus blocks and schedule connection during recovery windows. Use brief rituals to transition between states, a 2-minute breath, and stretch to move from family mode to focus mode, a short walk to close the workday, and enter rest. Micro-recovery matters, power naps, compression of heavy calls into specific windows, and boundaries around late-night work preserve reserves. Discipline gets brittle when energy is low. By designing your life to sustain energy, you ensure discipline is not a daily emergency but a predictable capacity. Treat your body like a high-performance asset, and your discipline returns compound. Chapter 11. Decision Rules. Stop negotiating with yourself. The number of daily decisions shapes your willpower. McGee's solution: decision rules, simple preset policies that remove debate and prevent executive exhaustion. Decision rules are short statements you consult in moments of temptation or uncertainty. Examples: if it's after 8 p.m., no social media, or if a task will take less than 10 minutes, do it immediately. They're micro-constitutions for behavior. Rules reduce friction by making the right choice obvious. The discipline is in the design. Rules should be specific, testable, and reversible with clear conditions. Avoid vague directives like "be healthier." That invites negotiation. No food after 8 p.m. except fruit removes phrasing wiggle room. McGee walks through building a rule set, identify habitual failure points, design a narrow rule to address each, and trial for 30 days. Rules succeed because they shift control from the moment to a prior commitment. They also protect identity. You don't have to debate who you are in the heat of the moment. The rule answers for you. Decision rules are social too. Use family agreements and public norms to enforce them. Test extreme cases. What if someone pushes back? Keep a repair ritual, reset with a short, non-punitive action, and review the rule's friction. Over time, rules remove noise, preserve willpower, and transform discipline into predictable behavior rather than moral wrestling. Build fewer, sharper rules and watch your days align with your values. Chapter 12: Handling Setbacks. Repair, don't renounce. Failure happens. E. McGee's humane message: setbacks are information, not moral verdicts. How you respond to failure separates people who recover from those who spiral. The first step is immediate repair, a concrete micro-action that re-establishes forward motion, rescheduling a missed workout, sending the delayed email, or doing a 5-minute restart of a habit. Repair prevents defeat cascades. Second, diagnose without drama. Ask what context caused the failure and what structural fix will reduce recurrence. Was it lack of time, an ambiguous goal, or environmental temptation? Structural fixes: moving the workout to morning, clarifying the task, removing triggers, beat moralizing talk. Third, normalize imperfection. Create a got back on it rule. After any miss, perform the smallest meaningful action within 24 hours. This ritual restores identity and resets the streak. McGee also highlights emotional repair. Talk kindly to yourself, name the lapse factually, and avoid catastrophic language. Social repair helps too. Brief accountability messages that own the miss and outline next steps preserve trust. Finally, harvest learning. Write one insight and one preventive change, then file them for future reference. Setbacks shrink when treated as tiny experiments that inform better systems. Discipline is not about never failing, it's about the speed and method of recovery. Chapter 13: The Psychology of Persistence. Grit, Curiosity, and Flexibility. Persistence is often romanticized as raw stubbornness, but McGee reframes it as adaptive persistence, grit combined with curiosity and flexibility. The disciplined person persists on what matters and pivots when evidence shows a path is ineffective. Grit without curiosity becomes blind tenacity. Curiosity without grit becomes endless tinkering. McGee recommends a hybrid approach. Commit to a direction for a reasonable horizon, 3 to 9 months. Run measurable experiments and hold a quarterly review to decide whether to continue, pivot, or stop. During the commitment, cultivate productive boredom, the tolerance to grind through repetitive practice because the purpose is visible. Chapter 14: Emotional Mastery. Regulate to execute. Discipline falters when emotions hijack behavior. McGee teaches emotional mastery as a practical toolkit, not stoic suppression. The aim is regulation. Notice emotion, label it, and choose the next useful action. Simple practices work: a 3-breath reset to lower arousal, a 5-minute walk to clear rumination, or a written sentence to externalize worry. Build a short emotional playbook. When anxious, do X. When angry, do Y. When overwhelmed, do Z. These pre-decided responses prevent impulsive reactions that derail discipline. Another strategy is reappraisal. Reinterpret setbacks as data and opportunity rather than threat. Reappraisal reduces cortisol spikes and enables clearer decisions. McGee also prescribes micro-rituals for gratitude and celebration to balance the negative bias. Small daily acknowledgements preserve morale and sustain motivation. Emotional mastery is practiced not to eliminate feeling, but to ensure feelings inform strategy rather than dictate it. Chapter 15. Rituals of Renewal. Rest as a strategic asset. Rest is not an indulgence, it's a discipline multiplier. McGee reframes recovery as a strategic ritual you schedule and protect. The most disciplined people treat downtime as mission-critical. Sleep windows, weekly digital Sabbaths, and monthly mini-retreats are non-negotiable elements on their calendar. These rituals replenish cognitive and emotional bandwidth so that discipline is repeatable rather than brittle. Design rituals to be simple and predictable: a 90-minute wind-down routine before sleep, a Sunday 2-hour reset without screens, a quarterly day of reflection and planning. Guard these windows fiercely. Treat them like meetings with your future self. McGee emphasizes active recovery, movement, nature, social connection, rather than passive scrolling that erodes capacity. Rest rituals also include micro-rewards after focus blocks: a short walk, a favorite tea, or 5 minutes of reading. These small replenishments compound. When you institutionalize rest, discipline becomes sustainable and life more humane. Chapter 16. Habits of High Performers. Rituals that anchor. Discipline. High performers are not perpetually motivated, they're ritualized. Kit McGee shows that the difference between occasional effort and relentless output is a scaffold of morning and evening rituals, checklists, and micro-habits that remove decision friction. Start with the morning triad: movement, margin, and intention. Movement wakes the body and anchors energy: a short sequence of stretching, a brisk 5-minute walk, or 2 sets of bodyweight drills. Margin is a brief buffer between waking and the day's first demand, a 10-minute unhurried window to avoid reactive mornings. Intention is a single sentence that names the day's one non-negotiable and stakes your choice publicly, even if only to yourself. Evening rituals close loops: a short review of wins, a micro-repair for what went wrong, and a clear shutdown routine that signals the brain it's safe to rest. These rituals are not spiritually indulgent, they are operational. Rituals compress uncertainty into predictable cues that make disciplined responses automatic. McGee emphasizes the central habit of preparation for failure. High performers design tiny repair moves so every slip has a safe, practiced restart. Missed workout? Do a 5-minute reset that night. Skipped focused work? Do 15 minutes the next morning before email. This prevents one lapse from metastasizing into demotivation. Another hallmark is a relentless feedback loop. Track the smallest signal linked to your goal: minutes of focus, completed reps, pages written, and review it daily. Data reduces argument with yourself. The rituals scale through habit stacking. Attach a new, small discipline to an established routine. After my teeth, I write one sentence. After my coffee, I review my top priority. McGee insists on protecting ritual simplicity. Complexity kills adherence. Pick tiny, high-leverage anchors and keep them ironclad. Social rituals matter too. Synchronous starts with an accountability partner, public micro-commitments, and short shared celebrations preserve momentum and make leadership of your own life visible. Finally, treat rituals as experiments. Iterate them monthly. If a ritual feels brittle or performance falls, change one variable and retest. The disciplined life is less about heroic willpower and more about daily rituals that convert choice into habit, chaos into cadence, and desire into predictable output. Chapter 17. Your Social Ecosystem. Design. Who you become around. Discipline is contagious in two directions. It's strengthened by proximity to people who value consistency, and it's eroded by environments that normalize excuses. McGee teaches that your social ecosystem is strategic infrastructure. Begin with a peer audit. List the 5 people you spend most time with and honestly rate how they influence your habit. Do they lift standards or lower them? Replace one low-leverage interaction weekly with a high-leverage connection, a 30-minute call with someone who shows up, a co-working hour with focused colleagues, or a short class that forces attendance. Next, build micro-accountability circuits. A single reliable partner with weekly check-ins dramatically increases completion rates. Make these conversations short, specific, and forward-looking. What you did, what you will do, and what you need help with. McGee highlights tribe design. Create or join small groups with shared rituals, writing sprints, early runs, study pods, so social proof scaffolds discipline. Another tactic is boundary socialization. Announce limits publicly. I do not respond to work messages after 8 p.m., or I'll be in deep work from 9 to 11 every day. When others know your rules, they honor them and your willpower conserves. He also warns against toxic comparison. Use peers to learn systems, not to measure worth. Emulate processes, not outcomes. Finally, curate your informational diet. Who you follow, whose success you consume, and the conversations you engage in shape your identity. Replace consumption with contribution. Share small lessons and failures publicly to create reciprocal accountability. Discipline thrives in communities that reward steady improvement, not grandstanding, and you become the sum of the people and norms you run with. Design that ecosystem deliberately, and you'll find discipline becomes easier because your environment amplifies the behavior you want rather than arguing with it. Chapter 18. Saying no without drama. Boundaries that protect progress. Self-discipline often collapses under the polite weight of endless yeses. McGee's practical teaching. Saying no is the primary skill of people who get big things done. Boundaries are not wall building, they are clarity machines. Begin with a simple rule. Delay all non-urgent asks for 24 hours. That pause converts reactive politeness into deliberate choice and protects your highest value windows. Learn a short refusal script that is kind and unambiguous. I appreciate you asking. I can't take that on now. I can help by suggesting X or scheduling later. This offers value, preserves relationships, and protects your bandwidth. Another technique is the one-in, one-out rule. For every new commitment you accept, remove a current one. This keeps your portfolio of obligations stable and prevents invisible expansion. McGee recommends calendaring a no-day each week where you refuse meetings and requests and focus solely on deep priorities. Social negotiation also matters. Teach people around you how to ask better. Require that requests come with clear outcomes, time needed, and a proposed timeline. This raises the quality of asks and reduces ambushes. Use pre-commitment signaling. Share your priorities publicly so others can self-filter requests that don't align. For high-pressure situations, employ the defer and test move. If someone needs a yes now, propose a short pilot or a defined deliverable that tests viability before a larger commitment. Saying no becomes easier when paired with an affirmative alternative, delegation, partial help, or a later date, so you remain generous without being owned by everyone else's urgency. Boundaries are sterile only until you name them. Once named, they protect your work, relationships, and sanity, and discipline becomes the engine of a life, not a prison of obligations. Chapter 19. The Discipline of Learning, Continuous Improvement as a Habit. Discipline that doesn't learn becomes brittle. McGee frames learning as a disciplined practice. Test, measure, iterate, and keep what works. Create a tiny learning loop, choose a metric, run a 7-day experiment, and extract one actionable insight. Micro-experiments reduce risk and increase informational velocity. 15 minutes of deliberate practice daily beats sporadic marathon sessions. Cultivate a learning portfolio, skills, systems, and self-awareness. Tilt investments toward transferable skills that increase optionality, writing, clear thinking, and execution frameworks. Reading is deliberate. Don't passively consume books. Extract 3 applicable tactics per chapter and implement 1 immediately. Reflection is mandatory. Keep a short decision journal that records why you acted what you expected and what happened. Over months, this becomes a goldmine of pattern recognition that trains judgment and reduces avoidable errors. McGee also stresses feedback hygiene. Seek specific, rapid feedback that clarifies next steps. Avoid vague praise and aim for directional signal. Mentorship accelerates learning. Periodic, concrete coaching sessions produce higher returns than random advice. Finally, reward iterative progress publicly in small doses. Share a 1-sentence insight, a brief demo, or a measured result. This externalizes learning and invites better critique. Discipline becomes ownership of a growth engine when learning is habitual, measurable, and social. The person who disciplines themselves to learn daily compounds capability into freedom. Chapter 20. Discipline under pressure. How to stay calm and execute when it matters most. The ultimate test of self-discipline is not habit days, but crisis days. McGee teaches that stress reveals systems. In pressure, defaults win. If your defaults are good, you perform. Prepare for volatility with a pressure kit, a short, practice checklist that includes a breathing set, a prioritized triage list, and a repair micro-action. When adrenaline spikes, a practiced box, inhale for 4, hold 4, exhale 4, reduces reactivity and turns panic into presence. Conclusion. A 7-day ICSIL launch, plan to turn, will into habit. Discipline begins with small, non-negotiable action. For the next 7 days, do 3 things. First, pick one single daily non-negotiable 20 minutes of focused work, a workout, or a 1-sentence journal, and defend it fiercely.